Jim Messina and how he became a great producer. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. Not everyone, when, let's say, they're 5 years old, knows exactly what they want to do. Most don't. Jim Messina picked up the guitar at 5 years old, and for the next few years really worked on his craft, songwriting, singing. As a teen, he became a producer. He joined Buffalo Springfield on their third and final album as a member and a producer, helped co-found the band Poco, and of course, created Loggins and Messina with Kenny Loggins. As much as he loves songwriting, one of his true passions has always been production. As mentioned, all the bands I just talked about, he was behind the controls for a lot of it. I asked him about moving to LA and possibly being a little green. I want to know, Jim Messina, getting to LA, did you feel green? Were you nervous? Can you bring me back there?
Well, I was playing someplace, and don't remember what it was, but somebody by the name of Glenn Edwards, who was working at KEZY radio at the Disneyland Hotel, somehow discovered me and asked me if I'd be willing to work for his label called Ibis Records. Now, I'm still in high school. And I said, well, what would I be doing? And he says, well, I'd like you to produce a couple of my acts. And I said, well, what does that mean? What does that entail? And he says, well, I just want you to go in, make sure their music sounds good, they're playing the right chords, and songs feel good to you. And then we'll record them on tape, and you listen to them back, and you tell me what you think. And I said, well, think about what? And he says, well, do you like the way it sounds? Are the chords right? Does the timing feel good? Those kinds of things. And if it's not, do it again, right? Till it's right. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I started working, and I'd go down there after school on Friday, and I'd record on Saturday and Sunday, and then I'd get late and I'd sleep there, and then I'd drive early in the morning to get back to school. I set by 8 o'clock in the morning. It was really tough. It's a 65-mile drive. But I did that and got a sense of what it was like to produce records in LA. And I loved it. I just thought this is fantastic. And then when I finally graduated, I moved there. The record company didn't do well. He didn't have really any hits. But now that I'm in LA, I met a guy by the name of Mike Giroux, who was the engineer on those records at Ibis Records. And he was working at a studio where we cut called Emperor Productions. It was owned by Bob Hudson of Hudson and Lambert. He was the #1 DJ at the time, KRLA. Top rating, 6 o'clock drive. And he owned this little studio down on Western and Sunset, somewhere around in there. And so now I'm in LA, I'm graduated, I don't have a job. And so Michael says, well, why don't you just come to the studio and watch me do what I do and be my assistant? So, I'd be there, and we were working on, he'd get something with the Hollywood Hotline and Dick Clark and Casey Kasem, and we'd do all these, he'd do all these things. I was just there watching. And then we'd have to edit it all together, and he'd say, I want you to edit this out and do this, put this together, and taught me how to edit, taught me about compressors and limiters, and then, he was poor too. We were both poor as church mice, and he'd get a job to build something, like a studio, small studio, and then he'd hire me as the assistant and taught me how to wire the patch bays and what a balanced input was and the flow, and we built studios. That's how I fed myself. And during the meantime, we found a couple things we'd produce here and there, for fun. Sometimes I'd just play and he'd record it, and we'd do things. And then we found this group called the Deep Six. We got a hit record on them, and we were supposed to produce their album, and instead they took it to Liberty, and Joe Saraceno said, you don't want those two little punks. You need somebody professional making this record. And of course, they went in that direction. What could they do? And of course, the record failed. They had no more hits. So it was one of those things where you start learning, you get the right people together, you get the right song, and you play well, you can get a hit record. But it takes a whole team. And I realized being cut out of things from time to time, how you get cheated out of something, but they cheat themselves as well, thinking that they can step in and take something from somebody and make something work. So that was a good lesson in honesty and integrity and also humility. But, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I mean, all I knew is that if I continued to do what I do and learn more and more about what I love to do, my feeling was I'm not going back to San Bernardino. There's no way I'm going to go back and live with my folks. I'd rather puke and starve in Hollywood doing what I want to do, playing a session once in a while as a guitarist or building a studio. And eventually I got hired at different places. Mike got me up enough where I became a dubbing engineer for Harmony Recorders, Bob Ross music. From there I learned how to master records. A guy, I can't remember his last name. His name is Bob. He had Bobby Fuller 4. I Fought the Law 1. He had a studio. Bob Krasnow, is that his name? And I went to work for him, and he had this young black kid working for him named Barry White. And Barry White and I were working together. And
the Barry White?
The Barry White. That became the Barry White. And I couldn't figure out what the hell that he and I were doing together, because I was an engineer and he was the musician and he was a drummer. And he'd get in there and he'd be playing and he'd start swearing and just, throwing sticks and stuff. And Jimmy, come here, Jimmy. He said, well, we need, he'd start telling me what we need to do. And I'm totally intimidated by this guy, But we worked together, and then years later, after Loggins and Messina, I'm at the Grammys or something, and he's there, and I'm walking up the aisle, and he looks at me and goes, Jimmy, Barry White. And I went, oh my God. And he was like right there where we were in the studio. He was totally present, which I thought was fantastic. But yeah, you get nervous. You're afraid of everything, just like you say. You don't know if you're going to say the right thing or do the right thing. But
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, but you do know what you do know. And as long as you stay faithful to that, and your parents raise you in a decent way, and I think it's important that when we're taught not to steal, not to lie, be respectful of your elders, and all those little simple things, I think, are what help make us successful in life. They really do work.
For information on Jim Messina's shows, go to jimmessina.com. I want to thank Jim for spending about an hour and a half with me talking about the good old days. And judging from what he's doing now and enjoying the shows that he's doing and being in front of people and sharing stories, there have been some reunions, of course, with Loggins and Messina throughout the years. Quite a few years ago, there was a reunion with the Poco guys from the first album, including Randy Meisner. I always say, you got something to say, get out there and share it. So, Jim, thank you. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music.